Welcome back to the Lore Loom, where we turn powerful books into simple stories you will actually remember. If you are new here, hit subscribe to join us, as we share a new story every day. Today we follow a senior peace negotiator who believed that showing mercy to a defeated rival was the ultimate mark of statesmanship. He was one signature away from a peaceful retirement, but the man he spared years ago was waiting in the shadows with a final, devastating plan. Karan sat in the dim carriage, rubbing a stubborn smudge of purple ink off his thumb. He watched the white peaks of the mountain pass slip by through the frosted glass. He counted the telephone poles. 1, 2, 3. The steam train rattled on its iron tracks. He reached onto the velvet seat for his reading spectacles, but his fingers hit something hard. A rusted brass bullet. He picked it up and held it to the light, recognizing the custom mark on the casing. This was the ammunition used by the enemy general he had defeated 3 years ago. The door slid open with a sharp click. Sasha stepped in, carrying a heavy leather portfolio. She immediately pulled a silk cloth from her pocket and began cleaning her spectacles with aggressive, squeaking strokes. It was her habit whenever she was irritated. Sasha laid out the peace treaty. She pointed to a clause that would freeze the enemy's bank assets and shut down their coal mines. She wanted them broke, starved, and unable to ever rebuild. It was a clean, absolute destruction. Karan pushed the papers back with a slow movement of his hand. He argued that a fair treaty was better because a starved neighbor would only plan another war. He wanted a deal that left them their dignity. Sasha stopped cleaning her glasses and stared at him. She told him that mercy was just weakness with a better name. But Karan's mind was already back on that wet, muddy hill 3 years ago. In his memory, the rain was relentless. Karan had stood over a defeated general named Emil, who was shivering in the mud with a torn collar. Emil had held out a cheap pocket watch with a picture of his daughter, weeping and promising to spend the rest of his days on a quiet farm if Karan let him live. Karan's officers wanted to shoot Emil on the spot. Karan had looked at the pocket watch, felt pity, and ordered his men to lower their rifles. He let the man walk away into the fog. Back in the dry train cabin, Karan told Sasha that his past kindness had made these very peace talks possible. Sasha did not answer. She packed her folder and left the room. That evening, the train stopped at a snow-covered platform to pick up the enemy peace delegation. Karan stood in the dining car to welcome them. Their leader was Vane, a frail, elderly politician who could barely walk without his cane. But then Karan saw the clerks standing at the back of the group. Among them was Emil. He wore a plain gray suit and kept his chin tucked down, his eyes fixed on the floor. Karan went over and spoke to him. Emil looked up, his voice soft and trembling. He thanked Karan once again for his life and said he was content to be a simple clerk assisting the great men of peace. Late that night, Karan went to his cabin to review his notes. When he pulled open his desk drawer, his hand stopped. His leather diary, filled with his private thoughts and his criticisms of his own government's defense plans, was sitting on the left side of the drawer instead of the right. Sasha slipped into the cabin, her breathing quick. She said she had seen Emil walking near the carriage door just minutes ago. She insisted that Emil had copied the papers and that they had to get them back before the train reached the capital. Sasha had a plan. They would slide a silver pocket watch into the coat of the young train porter who swept the floors. Then they would accuse the boy of theft, giving them an excuse to search every single bag on the train, including Emil's. Karan slammed his hand onto the desk. He told her he would not destroy an innocent young boy's life over a misplaced notebook. He ordered Sasha to leave, certain that Emil was too grateful to ever betray his trust. The next morning, a high, sharp scream cut through the train corridor. Karan and Sasha ran to the dining car. Vane, the elderly negotiator, was slumped forward over the table, his face white and his tea spilled across the polished wood. The train doctor whispered that it was poison. With Vane dead, the enemy delegation was terrified and leaderless. Then Emil stepped forward, his head high and his shoulders square. Emil announced that he had emergency papers from his government to take charge if Vane died. He sat down at the center of the table, his soft clerk's voice replaced by a cold, steady command. Karan sat down, expecting to discuss the original treaty. Instead, Emil reached into his coat and placed Karan's leather diary on the table. He opened it to the page listing the weak points of Karan's national border. Emil spoke softly, telling Karan he had poisoned Vane to take his place. He had spent 3 years preparing for this. If Karan did not sign a treaty giving up all border defenses, Emil would publish the diary, exposing Karan as a traitor and starting a new war. Karan looked at the diary, then at Emil's steady hands. No words came. He saw the truth of his old mercy now, sitting on the table in black ink. Karan closed his eyes and refused to sign. Sasha did not look at Karan. She took her spectacles off, wiped them once with her cloth, put them back on, and reached for the pen. She told Emil that if the senior envoy would not sign, she would do it herself to protect the state from the leak. The train slowed down, its whistle blowing as it pulled into the grand, snowy station of the capital. Karan stood up, feeling the cold air seep through his heavy coat. He walked to the exit, his body stiff. 2 soldiers from his own division met him at the door. They did not salute. They gripped his arms and clicked heavy steel handcuffs onto his wrists, charging him with treason. As they led him down the freezing platform, Karan looked back. Sasha and Emil were walking together toward a black carriage, speaking in quiet, practical tones as they went to finalize the deal. Here's the cool part. This whole story comes from a famous book called The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. It is inspired by Law 15, the idea that a defeated enemy must be crushed completely, because if even a single spark is left alive, a fire will eventually break out. Our characters are made up, but the lesson is very real. If you like this, the book goes even deeper, and you can find a link in the description below. So what did this story teach us? When you spare a beaten rival out of pity, you only give them the time they need to destroy you. Remember when Karan found the rusted bullet? It was his warning. And when he refused to frame the porter to search Emil's bags, his desire to remain clean and moral left him completely defenseless. Instead of letting him go 3 years ago, Karan should have stripped Emil of all his military ranks, banished him to a remote territory, and forbidden him from ever participating in government affairs again. This would have rendered him harmless forever. What would you have done in Karan's place? We all know that books are incredibly long, and with our busy lives, finding the time to read them cover to cover can feel almost impossible. That is why we do what we do here, turning powerful books into short, vivid stories that stick with you forever. If you want to keep learning these lessons without spending hours reading, hit the subscribe button and click the bell icon so you never miss a story. Drop a comment below and let us know which part of today's story hit you the hardest. Was it Karan finding the bullet, or Sasha taking the pen at the end? See you in the next story.